G'day, welcome down to the Woodworks and to the new year. Unfortunately, you'll have to excuse my voice. I've started the new year with a man flu. Go figure, we're in the middle of a heat wave. Anyway, in today's video, I'm going to be turning this into this. This build starts off with breaking down this old dining tabletop that was given to me by my sister. There was quite a bit of timber in this top, but the only thicker boards were those around the perimeter and those centre cross braces, which, after sorting through the good and the rubbish, was only just enough for this small end table. The outside boards had to be broken down further to get rid of these huge fixing holes where screws were inserted and then plugged with dowel. I originally posted the idea of this build on my Instagram, explaining what I had in mind.
So the idea is these 5 will be edge glued together to make a top, but the legs, this piece and this piece, are going to be mitered to form like a waterfall. So a waterfall there, there, there and there. Not sure what I'm going to do with these edges here. I don't really want to see end grain, so what I'm thinking, I might cut a miter on these as well and glue a very small end piece on here. That's just the same basically thickness, the height is the same thickness as the piece, so not sure if that's making any sense, but that'll be a mitered edge as well, but it will only be as thick as the board.
The timber on this old table was rustic finished and had deep saw marks and a very heavy stain or paint, so I put all the pieces through the usual milling processes to bring them back to a flat, smooth surface and close to final dimension. These 6 pieces were the legs and end boards of the top, so they needed to be exactly the same width. Running them through the thicknesser like this does a great job of that. Some of these boards had pretty bad edge cracks, but they were going to be hidden in final glue up. I laid all the boards out in order and with the face orientation that I was happy with, and then marked the direction of the miter cuts, because it's way too easy to get confused and cut them the wrong way. At this point, I'm only cutting the 6 pieces that will make up the leg assemblies. The miter joints for these legs needed to be very strong, and I wanted to try dominoes, so I called on a mate. Thanks, Louis. My first time ever using a domino. I liked it, but I won't be buying one. One of the boards had a massive edge crack, so I filled it with epoxy to stabilise it. Once that was set, I ran it through the thicknesser again with the other leg pieces to clean up the epoxy and make sure that they were all still the same width. So far I've been working on the leg pieces, but the first part of the glue up was going to be the 3 middle boards of the top, which I did with the help of some biscuits using a slot cutter in my router table. Once the top had dried, it was time to cut the miters on each end, and this is where I almost made a huge mistake. I thought the blade was set at 45, but it wasn't. And if I didn't have that reference line on the top of the piece, I wouldn't have realised it was wrong and would have continued through the whole piece. Luckily, the blade had only cut into the top surface about 3mm, so I was able to trim that bit off the edge later, and the rest of the cut would be hidden in the glue line. The offcuts from this piece had an opposing miter cut into them so they could be glued back onto the edge to give a continuous grain effect. When thinking about how to glue these miters together with those thin edge pieces and stopping everything from sliding around, I thought of using a spline. The spline is purely for alignment and not strength, so I went with 3mm MDF because the kerf of my blade is 3mm. This actually worked out really well, and the ends of the splines would also be hidden in the glue line. Again, when thinking about how to glue the leg assemblies to the tabletop, I wanted a stronger joint than just edge gluing, even with biscuits. And one of the edges had a fair bit of epoxy in it, so I didn't think the glue would take to that, so I decided to go with floating tenons. I cut the mortises in all the pieces using a 12mm spiral bit in the router table. I marked the width of the bit on that secondary fence there, which helped me cut the mortises to the correct length. I made the floating tenons by milling down an offcut to the dimensions of the mortise and used a round over bit on all four corners. I then cut the tenons to length and gave them all a small chamfer using the amazing homemade belt grinder to make installing them a little easier. Then it was time to get the leg assemblies glued up to finally bring this table together. To help clamp these miters together, I made these removable, reusable gluing blocks, and as you'll see here, they worked out great. I gave the table a final sanding. And then applied a mixture of equal parts spar urethane, boiled linseed oil and terps. Well, I hope you agree the table turned out pretty good. There was a bit of a thought process in this table because it's not your conventional build. Most tables are just 4 legs joined by aprons and a top slapped on top. But with this table, the top and the legs are basically one piece. So there was a little bit of thought process involved in putting it all together or how it was going to go together. But yeah, I'm really happy with the end result. Thanks for watching along. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully the first of many videos and builds this year. I'm really looking forward to it. If you want to know what I'm up to in between videos, you can follow me on Instagram. If you haven't done so already, I do invite you to subscribe to the channel. But until the next one, you guys all have a great day.